Have you heard about the crazy doctor in the Florida Keys that mummified his soulmate? This was in like the late 1920s to early 1930s. He was like way older than she was too, which is just so creepy. But to the best of my knowledge, we did a tour down there, and this girl, okay, back up. So this guy, he said he had a dream, a vision, where like his ancestor, some ancestor he had, came to him and showed him a vision of the woman of his soulmate, right? And he's like, oh, great, whatever, I have a soulmate. And then he's like working in a hospital in the Florida Keys, and this family comes to him, and one of their daughters has tuberculosis, and he's like, oh, it's her. He's like, oh my gosh, this is my soulmate, this is amazing, blah. But she's dying, no. So he does all he can to save her, but she dies. So he's obsessed with her, right? So like over the course, like he was at her bedside. He was like reading to her and learning everything he could about her. And mind you, he's like 40, 50 years older than her. She's like a young woman. He's like old enough to be her grandfather. Anyway, so she dies. And he tells her family, he's like, listen, I want to help with her funeral. Let me pay for her like mausoleum. I'll build a mausoleum for her. And her parents are like, okay, cool, whatever. So he builds a mausoleum for her, and then he goes out there daily and sings her favorite songs and reads her poetry and blah, blah, blah. And then one day he has a vision of her telling him that he needs to take her out of there. So he does. And he brings her to his home, and he puts her in his bed. And just slowly over the course of time, as she begins to rot, he embalms her with like different stuff. He makes, like, her hair is falling out, so he makes a wig from her old hair that he got from her mother. He makes a mask for her, and I'm not going to show you photos. If you want to see photos, they have photos. Google Carl Tanzler. Ugh. Anyway, so he mummifies her and he keeps her in his room, and there are even like reported incidents of him like dancing with her corpse in his living room. This is over the course of 7 years. Eventually, her sister hears a rumor. Her sister's like, what do you mean this like old doctor keeps my sister's body in his bed? So she calls the police, and they knock on the door, and there's a corpse. Disgusting. So first they do a psych eval on the doctor, and they're like, is he okay? Like, what's going on here? Nope. Totally ruled sane. Ugh. So they do this court thing, and apparently the public opinion was, oh, he's just a hopeless romantic who just fell in love with a woman and she died. Like, poor man. Poof. Anyway, he gets off scot-free, and he just toodles off on his way. But again, he was so obsessed with her. So they ended up, like, her body went on, like, people were able to visit her body, like her mummified body. And they ended up burying her in an anonymous grave because they didn't want people, like, finding her. So this Carl Tanzler, he gets off scot-free. He gets to run around, do whatever he wants, but he gets her death mask. He gets his hands on her death mask. Disgusting. And, creates another likeness and dies with it in his house. So yeah, truth is stranger than fiction a lot of the times.